Hi, everybody. Matt Bernier, joined by Woodbine analyst Dawn Lupul, taking a look at the Sunday Woodbine play of the day. It also happens to be the Sunday DRF race of the day. Race number 9. You got a couple of grade ones up there at Woodbine on Sunday. We're going to take a look at the grade 1 summer. This is a win and you're in for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. You've got a nice field put together here, Dawn. For those of you that are following along at home, head on over to the Race of the Day page on drf.com. Download your free formulator past performances, and you can go through this entire field top to bottom. Dawn, I think first things first, let's discuss the pace situation in here, because if, at face value, I looked at this race and thought there were a number of horses that like to be forwardly placed. The Timeform US pace projector agrees as far as the pace being on the hot side. They have the red bar indicating that the pace should be spirited and swift up on the front end. They have the 7 horse actually out on the front. That's Sky Chief for Mike Maker, followed by the 3, the 6, and the 11. To be honest, I was a little bit surprised to see Fog of War as close to the pace. What are your thoughts overall about the pace situation?
I'm actually surprised by that too, with Fog of War, the way that he ran last time. But, you know, with babies, when they make their first one, or these are lightly raced horses. A lot of them will just go to the front because they're precocious. They're just that good. You get them to the front, you stay out of trouble. It's not necessarily their inherent running style. So pace projections with babies can be extremely useful. It can be a little misleading as well.
100% agree. This is one of those instances. You're talking about a number of horses that have started one time in their career. Who knows what's going to happen here in start number 2? Some of them are stretching out in distance. Some of them are also changing surfaces. Let's talk about one of the local hopes in here. 4-1 on the morning line for the 2. Avies Flatter. This is a horse, Dawn. I know I talked to Jeff Brad about it a few weeks back. I thought this horse was tremendous when he broke his maiden. That was on the synthetic. We're going to take a look at that right now. 5/8 of a mile that day, won by 2.5 lengths. The figure came back strong from a buyer's standpoint, or competitive anyway. Timeform, though, has it a little bit lighter. What are your overall thoughts on Avies Flatter?
I think it was good. It was professional enough, not an easy place to start from the inside post position as a debut runner. And I do think he'll switch over to the turf with no problem. From a physical standpoint, he looks like he'll be able to do both surfaces with ease. So whatever you think he did on synthetic, I think he'll flip to the grass just the same.
When you take a look at things in your own personal handicapping, and if you look at different figures, and one would suggest the race was a little bit faster than another, how do you handle a situation like that? Because, like I said, Timeform US had that race considerably slower than the buyer speed figure would, and at that point, that makes a bit of a conundrum for a handicapper.
It does, absolutely. And it's challenging because, when a baby wins, did they go all out? Was that all there is in the tank? A lot of times the answer would be no, especially one that comes from off the pace like that. They were put in a position to run horses down, to learn something, and that's what they did. So again, much like pace projections, speed figures can be a little tough in these situations.
And I think this is one of those instances you want to use your eye and let that sort of be the guide and tell you how they look. Let's talk about the number 9 horse, Nash Trick, in here. Another local hope going out for Josie Carroll. Debuted going about 7 furlongs on the turf course. 7/8 of a mile, never an easy distance to sort of debut at. I thought this horse, Dawn, was very impressive.
Very impressive, yes, and not extremely well behaved either. He was very bad to load. He just didn't want to go on the gate, so that was a little bit of fuss from him. And then he got pushed out at the start. It wasn't exactly a trouble-free race for him, but certainly a nice result.
A big full field of 13 in here. There are a number of different ways to go. You're interested in a little bit of an interesting runner here, breaking toward the outside. Tell us about the number 12, Jungle Warrior.
Came over here with a little bit of hype. Actually ended up going off at fairly generous odds considering the talk that was going on about him. And boy, did he ever finish well. I mean, Gary Boulanger, who doesn't say a lot about a lot of things, he's a pretty quiet kind of guy. He couldn't stop talking about this horse for 2 days after. The more, like every time I saw him go by on a horse, he'd be like, the Jungle Man, So he's super excited about Jungle Warrior. And if you look at the last fraction that he traveled that race, he looks like he could be the real deal. Kind of a tough draw, though.
Comes home in that final 1/8 of a mile there in that debut in 11:48. Definitely an interesting runner at odds of 15-1. Overall, I'm curious on your thoughts. I hate to do it, especially in a baby race. I'm chalking out, and I'm going with Javier, and I'm going with Chad Brown with Fog of War, the number 3 horse. The career debut, he did some things that were good, but he also was a little bit green. He popped back to his left lead at the end of the race, and usually I don't want to say that that's atypical for a Chad Brown horse, because normally they're very, very professional, but we have seen some good ones and some talented ones of his in the past be a little bit green early on. I'm just a couple things. I'm fascinated by that pace projector if they think he's going to be that close. And pedigree wise,
Right.
I think really the thing for me that stuck with Fog of War, down on the dam side, you've got Risk Averse. You see he's by War Front. The pedigree,
Yeah.
I think he's going to run all day. The value is not going to be there, if I'm being honest, though. At 5-2 or anything less than that, I don't know that he's going to be a bet for me, but I just think there's a scenario where he may be the best horse in the race.
I think you're right, and that's who I ended up going on top with. And if he is much lower than that in this big field, a lot of unknowns, he's definitely an exacta play for me, top and bottom. I will take the 12 Jungle Warriors, my second tout. I'm somewhat interested in the 13 Federal Law as well. I wish he'd drawn a little bit better, but that Son of Scat Daddy very much intrigues me, and the 2 AV's Flatters. So I'm going to play around with the 3, the 2, the 13, and the 12 in some order.
Yeah, Dawn and I are both going to go with Fog of War on top. Dawn's a little bit interested in the 12 Jungle Warrior underneath. I'm a little bit interested in the 9 Nash Trick underneath as well. And we both discussed the credentials for a horse like Avies Flatter coming in here. It's a great race. There are 2 Grade 1 races scheduled on Sunday afternoon up at Woodbine. You've got the Grade 1 Natalma as well as the Grade 1 Summer. The 2-year-olds, they're taking center stage on Sunday. Big day Saturday, Woodbine Mile Day. Sunday, though, great racing as well. The Sunday Woodbine Play of the Day also happens to be the Sunday DRF Race of the Day. And again, a reminder, over on the DRF Race of the Day page, you can download those free Formulator Pass performances. Scheduled post time for race number 9, Sunday afternoon. The Grade 1 Summer Stakes is 5:30 Eastern. Good luck.